This is the ACE team, and we would like to start off our debate competition. We first have Sarvesh. Sarvesh, please take over.
Okay, 1 minute. So, good afternoon, one and all present here. I am Sarvesh Oja, the event head. Takes immense pleasure to welcome you all to the third event conducted by the ACE Club Block, which is a debate competition. Winning and losing are likely two sides of a coin, but participating shows your interest, perseverance. So, I take this opportunity to thank you all for joining this event in such a good number. Not only this, I am so glad to say that every event conducted by the ACE Club has been a great success because of you guys. I would now like to introduce our judges for this competition. Dr. Sumitra Pujari and Ms. Prashanti, Assistant Professors from the Department of Commerce, and the chairperson for the competition, Ms. Sugnashila, Associate Professor from the Department of Commerce. I welcome our senior and experienced faculty members from the Commerce Department and thank them for sparing time for our competition. Now, Kirti, the Assistant Event Manager, will brief us about the rules and regulations. Thank you and all the best. Over to you, Kirti.
Thank you, Sarvesh, for introducing to the ACE. Now, I would be explaining you all the rules and regulations which are expected to followed by the students. Okay, so the participants are expected to have a stable internet connection. A minimum of two participants are expected to team up for the competition. The judge's decision is final and no arguments will be entertained. Utmost discipline is expected from the participants. The motion for and against for a team will be decided by the club. During the rebuttal, the participants should oblige to the chairperson's commands. The arguments must be decent and logical. Use of foul language will not be tolerated and will lead to disqualification. Both the team members of each team should have equal participation in the debate. Okay, so now I'll be explaining you the time allotment that we have divided for both the team A and team B, which is team for and team against. In total, for one round, you all will be given 10 minutes. 5 minutes for the team standing for and 5 minutes for the team standing against. So, as you all can see on your screens, the flow chart. Okay, so one participant from each team will be given a single minute to introduce the topic, and we expect two participants from each team to introduce the topic, which is in total 4 minutes. And coming to the debate, you all will be given 2 minutes each team, which is team standing for and team standing against. That is again in total 4 minutes. After we are done with the debate, each team will be given a single minute for the conclusion statement, which is in total 10 minutes. So moving on, we'll start with the first round, which is team versus 10 versus team 1. Are you all here?
Yes, we are
Team 1 is
here.
here.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
In 10.
Okay. So moving on, can you please go to the first topic, Anmol? Okay, so the topic for the first round is OTT versus D2H and the race for consumers' viewership. You all can please start.
Good evening, everybody. The topic given for us is OTT versus D2H and the race for consumer viewership. The D2H and OTT platform are completely different. OTT platform are very personal, whereas D2H connections are more social in nature. They complement each other as well as like the OTT platform. They suggest about the materials available on D2H by advertisement. OTT stands for over the top. The term is used for the delivery of film and TV content. That is, the internet without requiring users to subscribe to traditional cable. Example of OTT, individuals who watch video, that is any app or website that provides streaming video content. Example, Netflix, Amazon Prime and YouTube. Thank you.
Coming to DTH. DTH means direct to home. Like it's broadcasting a multi-channel TV, like TV programs from KU band using a proper satellite system, providing TV signals to direct to the subscriber premises. D2H, it is actually an Indian direct broadcast satellite service provider owned by Dish TV and a Videocon. Dish TV and D2H, they have merged. Uh, Across India, there are nearly 29 people have merged this. 29 million actually. DTH, it is a satellite-based service, and we can get direct television services to our home, which can be situated anywhere around the country. Examples of DTH are like Tata Sky, Airtel Digital TV, and DD Free Dish. Zing Digital. This was used nearly like about 35 million people are using these. Coming to our topic, OTT versus
Thank you.
DTH and race for customer viewership. In this,
Thank you. Please wait. Please wait. The next team.
Ma'am, actually, my partner lost her connection, it seems, ma'am. Just a second.
Kashish, you can start, Kashish.
We are fine. Already one of the condition is you should have a good connection, because if we are going to wait, then it will distract our entire program.
Okay, ma'am. I'll start the topic. Good afternoon. My name is Kashish and I'm from BCom. I'm against the stand of OTT versus D2H. To begin with, OTT platforms provide services for messaging, calling, and whatever content is available over the internet, whereas D2H services provide direct to home services. But are the OTT services beneficial to us just because they are easily accessible to us? I don't think so. We need to look into deeper issues of pricing, prestige, and not to mention how OTT services are harming our nature and causing a lot of problem to us as well as the earth. In the era of technology, we are not losing our prestige. We are losing our prestige because of rapid growth of the OTT platforms. Thank you.
ma'am, can we start the debate?
Yes.
Yes, it should be continuous, right?
Yeah. What our topic is like OTT versus DTH and the race for consumer viewership. How many of them are like viewing, and what's the rate in between them? Who is winning? Like OTT, around 55% are they're using OTT platforms. When it comes to DTH, only 45% are using. Again, like we are supporting OTT. We are for OTT. We'll get the proper content like what we want in DTH, and we don't get those
Okay,
all
you get the
what we want.
proper content, and what content
Yes.
do you guys provide? Because major portion of you OTT provide, they just provide content to the young people, which is not even beneficial, and they spend like around
They
8 hours.
want.
Around they provide like around they spend like 8 hours continuously watching Netflix or other series which are not even of beneficial to younger minds. So what is a point then of providing so good services, but then
Okay, let me.
there's no point of providing so much services when all you got to do is not provide something beneficial
Please
to them.
maintain, Kashish, maintain the decorum. Have a pause in between.
Okay, ma'am.
I have
Sorry,
a question
continue.
for you. I
Yeah.
have a question for you, Ashish. How many hours do you use your mobile? You use your mobile or TV?
Yeah.
How many hours do you watch?
I don't
You
watch.
use.
I don't watch. This is personal here. The debate is about OTT
No,
versus
no,
D2H.
I'm
You're getting
asking you
personal
for-
here.
I'll relate it to the debate, okay? I'm
Yeah.
not going to into person. Just answer my question. How many hours do you, not only you, in your home or anyone around you,
Yeah.
you see them, right? How many hours do they watch?
Maximum
least-
1 hour. That's it.
No. Your classes only will have at least.
I'm sure maximum 1 hour. That's it. I don't use OTT.
I'm
Nor
saying
do
that
I.
online
Nor do I
classes
go for
only
Netflix.
OTT
And
actually
I can provide you with another counter question. According to the Information Technology Act 2000, Section 7, they are not liable even for the content. So that So anyone who is viewing that, whoever are directors of the any series, they're not they just give whatever they feel like, and they're not even liable for anything which the
There is a
viewers see.
no, there is an age limit and restricted
No one
age for
follows that, to be
everything.
honest. No one follows that.
You are only saying that we should take the first initiative step, right?
But how can you take the initiative when they do they restrict, do they be like, cannot
Why
be
we can't?
1 second, they do not ask the option, if you're like above 18 or above 19, they do not have the option, you just directly have access to them, that's it.
See, let me tell. Now, a girl or a guy who is studying LKG, they are having mobile phones with them. Yes, they are using, but they are using under their parents.
Do you think whenever they're watching, parents is going to be beside them and seeing whether they're watching good content or not? No parent is going to be 24/7 with the child, right?
No, that is a basic source. OTT, they are providing platforms for basic source. We are watching Amazon, Netflix. These are all examples. YouTube, we are learning, right? This is an example.
Tell me, what are you learning then? If you're getting so personal here, tell me, what are you learning? We basically just, just because it is easily accessible to us doesn't mean that we are seeing good content, to be honest, it's paid subscription too. I have to pay for that, and then I'll get good, and then I have to choose for myself whether that content is good or not. And basically, if you're telling about small children, to be honest, parents won't be there for them, to guide them, which is
okay,
good
guys,
content or
listen.
bad.
Guys, listen. Counter claim now. 30 seconds each.
See, we need data, right? Conclusion, I'll tell you the conclusion. OTT is
Not now. Conclusion, not now. Counter claim
No,
fast. 30 seconds. Only 30 seconds will be given to you. Each of you can speak for only 30 seconds. Then
OTT, I'll start. OTT, I'll support OTT and this platform. We'll have a
counter claim. Counter claim.
Ma'am, can you question back, ma'am?
Yes.
So now no question back. Questioning is done. Now you have to you spoke for. Now you have to speak against. The one who's speaking against will speak for.
Okay. You said high charges, right? Ashish, are you there? You said high charges for buying the subscription and all.
I never said high charges. I just said paid subscription. I never said high charges. I just said paid subscription. I never said whether it is high or low.
No, I'm against right now. Okay. Signal strength, we may have signal strength and repetitive content, those all, so that we may lose the interest in watching the OTT and DTH.
Why will you lose the watching interest? If the content is good, it depends upon the content.
No.
Yeah.
You guys have one minute each. You have to conclude now.
Okay, the time is up already.
Yeah.
Can we counter back?
You guys have 1 minute each.
Sorry.
Please, guys, please give your conclusions now. You both have 1 minute each.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I conclude that OTT, that's a platform, is a good service actually. It's good for income and good for watching good content. We have to take the positive things in everything, right? Good service, and everyone should take the benefit of the latest technology. We are in an updated version, dude. We are not still going back. We are going forward. As per the question, OTT versus DTH, it's a race for consumer viewership. I choose, it's a winning for OTT platform. That's it. We get good income and everything. We'll have a privacy while watching. Theaters, we can't carry them always with us, right? OTT, if we catch our phone and we'll go, we can watch anywhere. The downloaded movie or anything. Everything, our movies in our hands when we are using our mobile. It's a good platform. We have to utilize it in a proper way. Not to mislead or mislead. So it's a OTT platform.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, according to the International Energy Agency. Yeah, continue, bro. We aren't able to hear you, Sandhya.
In the beginning, but hello.
Yeah, continue. Just conclude.
Can you hear me now?
Vandana, we are losing time.
I was saying, OTT, it might be have its benefits, that it might be having its own benefits, but it has more risks than it is having its benefits. And D2H is user friendly.
Okay, people in rural areas don't have any access to OTT platforms, and whereas just watching, according to the International Energy Agency (IEA) 2019, there was a report conducted, and in which it was said that watching around 30 minutes of Netflix consumes around 1.6 kg of CO2, which could travel around 4 miles. So it is not only harming our prestige, our heritage as well, but it is also harming our nature earth. That's all I could say. Thank you.
Yeah. Moving ahead, the next team is Team 2 versus Team 9. And the topic is, does regulation of fuel price every day help the common man?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Datri from BCom IFA 1. And myself and my friend Sirisha, we both are dealing with the topic, does regulation of fuel price every day help the common man? We are against this. So let's get into the introduction. So regulation itself means that to have control or give an order through an authority, whereas regulation is a bit more formal than a rule. So generally the prices of fuel are fixed in such a way that it is calculated based on the trade parity pricing. Like it's basically it's set based on the international markets of the crude oil. When the prices of the petroleum, diesel, and so on, so any crude oil, whichever it is, when the price of those increases in the international market, the Indian oil companies also increase the price of the fuel. In the same way, there is a vice versa as well. When there is a decrease in
Thank
the...
you. So your friend has to start now. Your teammate has to start.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the Indian government determines that oil companies or fuel companies must determine or permit their prices as per their will and freedom. So the fuel companies like HPCL or BPL, those are companies which determine their price as well. So as you all know, there are many factors which impact the fuel pricing, such as rupee to US dollar exchange rate, price of the crude oil, absolute demand for fuel, and so on. So the UN Minister of these Petroleum and Gas, who is Dharmendra Pradhan, has set a rules and regulations regarding taxation. So the taxation here includes VAT, dealer commission, and many more, etc. So these are joined up and made for GDP of the Indian economy. So this is the introduction of this. That's it.
The team standing for? Are you here?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can I start?
Yeah, start.
Good evening, one and all. This is R. Sai Srujan from BCom Computers 1C, and we are standing for this topic. Does regulations of fuel price every day helps the common man? Yes, it helps the common man. If we see the we see the ratio of increasing the petrol fuel rate and decreasing the fuel rate. For example, one day, if the fuel price is increased to 15 paisa, the next day it is only decreasing to 2 paisa. So if we see this ratio, we can understand that the fuel rate is going on increasing, so that a common man can't afford it. So then the common man will opt the public vehicles, public transport, so that it is also useful for the government income. Government can also get a good income, and government can think to reduce the fuel rate, so that the common man can the common man can get helpful for this topic. And I request my partner Ashmita to continue this topic. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Ashmita. I want to say you about the stand where me and my team is taking to the stand to the regulations of fuel price helps the common man. So what is fuel actually? It is a substance that is burned to provide nuclear energy, heat, or power materials like coal, wood, oil, or gas. So India has generated 35.2 million tons of petroleum products from ingredients crude oil, and we get fuel from Saudi Arabia, as everyone knows about it. So that's it. I have a problem in my camera. Sorry about it. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys can start the debate now.
Yes, sir. So, what I want to say is the price of the fuel in India depends upon the price of the international fuel market. So, this means if the price of the international fuel market increases, our Indian economy or our Indian fuel market as well increases. But when it reverses, that means if it decreases, that doesn't happen. Why? Because our government starts or levies new taxes, fresh taxes on the people, so to get extra revenues from them. Why does this happen in India? So the petrol rate is nowhere decreasing at all. So this doesn't help common people, is it? Isn't it? So I say that the regulation of the fuel price is not happening so well that common people are not benefiting from it. Anyone. So yeah, that's it. The taxes are levied.
Listen. If it is affecting the common people, so you can go to the. My friend Sujan also said about you can use the government vehicles, right? You don't need to use your own fuel, bike and pour fuels on that. So why do you use government fuels, government vehicles, right?
Yes, we can use, but nowadays, can anyone have, like, everyone have a small motorcycle to big a car? So anyone can afford a vehicle. So why they use public transportation at all?
No. I will not agree with this point. Everyone. Everyone
Not
I agree.
Everyone should understand this the standard of living, and they should save the monies, right? So we can't we can't see the standards, right? We should go. It's not a problem.
Yes, you know the percentage of the people who doesn't have vehicles in India right now?
Excuse me?
I can say it is just to 1 to 10% scale because that is very low.
Government should think for both the higher class and lower class. It should also think for lower class people also. So we can't say they are not using vehicles. Most of them does not have vehicles. The village, there are some villages.
That's what I'm saying. They don't have vehicles.
Hello. You're not.
Yeah, that doesn't help anyone, is it? That helps common man.
You said government is collecting taxes. It is collecting taxes to reduce the petrol rate only because it want to help the people.
No. You are getting me wrong. To not reduce the petrol rate, it adds up so that that doesn't decrease at all. Like it will be minimum or even maximum, but it will not decrease at all. Point.
If we see the ratio, minimum 2 paisa is also decreasing in the fuel rate. It's not. I will not say that it's not decreasing.
Yeah, I can totally understand it. If 2 paisa is decreasing at the same rate, 2 rupees is also increasing. So this is beyond balancing. Am I saying it? Yes, my friend will take over that.
So actually, we are talking about the regulation of fuel prices here. So this is kind of a new system because the fluctuation occurs very frequently in the fuel prices. So if we introduce this new system, this might also influence on the common necessary commodities like many pulses or anything, because common man even purchases, like necessities are available for everyone. It's compulsory for everyone. So such new systems also influence on different other necessities, commodities which we purchase. So we are against this because not only decrease or increase in the fuel, but also the persons who or common man who consumes different necessary commodities cannot do that because there will be fluctuations then and there again and again. So yeah.
So hereby we conclude that we are against this.
Please, yeah. Team against, please conclude your statement.
Yes, sir. We hereby conclude that this doesn't help common man at all. He has to pay the taxes and including the fair rate of the fuel price and also. So this doesn't help common man. the government should impose many policies and laws, I'd say, and it should obey all the restrictions and laws. That's it.
My friend Kangsha will conclude. Kangsha.
Including, yes, the regulation of fuel price every day helps the common man, and I also told the reasons how it helps the common man. Not only that, by using this public transport, the pollution will also decrease, and it's also not helpful for a common man, each and every people in the society. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine. Okay, so next theme is theme number 6 versus theme number 16. Are you all here?
Yes, we are here.
Ma'am, team number 13 is here.
Okay, where is your opponent team, which is team number 5? Are they here? Okay, so I'm proceeding with the next theme, which is team number 6 versus team number 16.
Yeah. Good evening, all. Me, my teammates Jacob and Mehak are here to perform a debate on the topic bank mergers in India. We, as today's proposition, strongly believe that bank mergers has many benefits. As per the scheme, Oriental Bank of Commerce and United Bank of India will be merged into Punjab National Bank, Syndicate Bank into Canara Bank, Allahabad Bank into Indian Bank, and Andhra Bank and Corporation Bank into Union Bank of India. The government in August 2019 had announced the merger of 10 public sector lenders into 4 bigger and stronger banks. As the banks are getting stronger and bigger, we have many benefits such as reduction of cost operations, also leads to economies of scale, risk management, and other benefits.
When the banks merge, what happens is the bank gets the consolidated balance sheet, which helps the economy to get stronger, and it reduces the disparity in wages, wages of the people who work in bank, and it reduces the burden on government to recapitalize the bank. If the banks are more, government has to pass on the capital in the larger amount, but if the banks are less, it will become easier for the government to manage all the banks. And it reduces interest rates on loans. When the banks merge, they get larger cash, and this benefits the customers as they reduce the rates on the loans, and they increase the interest rates on the savings and FDs, and also the RDs.
The team standing against? Are you guys here?
Hello, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself and
To,
start.
good evening to one and all. To all our judges and all our judges of ACE Club and the members and their worthy opponents. This is Akash Singh from BCom Professional first year. Today's my topic is about bank mergers. I'm against the bank merger. As our finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced the amalgamation of 10 public sector banks into four big banks on August 2019. The public sector banks, there will be excess workforce, which will lead to VRS, and further hiring will be shoved and restricted, and will lead to unemployment. This will lead to unemployment, and various big banks have their sophisticated facilities which small banks cannot afford for that. They have
Thank you.
very limited.
Sorry to interrupt. Your teammate has to talk now.
Okay, over to Kunal.
Yeah.
Merger of banks will result in closure of many branches, offices, ATM centers, processing centers, etc. After merger of public sector banks, there will be excess workforce on the other labors. Further hiring will be stopped or restricted, which will affect the employment and leads unemployment. Acquiring banks have to handle the burden of weaker banks. Merger of weak banks with a strong bank may always not result in a better bank, as the weakness of the one bank may get transferred and merged entity may become weak. All over profitability may not increase, as because losses of the weak bank may eat up the profits of the strong bank. Larger banks are more vulnerable to global economic crisis. Different
Okay, thank
banks
you.
have. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So please start the debate now. Both the for and against team, please start the debate.
As you said, hello.
And please, both of you, please, both of you,
Uh,
both the teams, open your cameras.
Sorry, sir, the network isn't supporting. I cannot switch on the camera.
Any other, your participant, your team member, can he open his camera?
I'm really sorry, even I'm not able to switch on.
Okay. Please carry on with the debate.
As you said, when the banks merge, the weaker bank eats the profit of the stronger bank. But I will show you the results. What happened when United Bank of India, Andhra Bank and Corporation Banks merged? It increased the profit. It increased the profit of Andhra Bank by 0.76%, and PNB, OBC and UBI Bank when merged, it increased the profit rate of UBI's share by 0.38%. Then this level shows that the weaker bank ate the profit of the stronger banks, but in fact, the weaker banks became stronger when they merged.
It is already known that when weaker banks already have a loophole in them, they already have a dysfunction in them, which is why they have been merged with the larger banks for a better, working. But the weaker banks address is not at all issue, and it is subsided and it is put behind the burner, and there is no upliftment as such of the weaker bank. So it is just the bigger bank getting more recapitalization, and nothing much is happening to the weaker banks. And when the larger banks merge with the weaker banks, many of its branches and other ATMs, etc., are removed, and thus the presence of these such banks in the rural sectors, suburban sectors is reduced. And this does not help the economy as such, because there are many capital or fundraising requirements especially in the rural area. So
Are you saying that
but
this
what
is
happened
minimizing
was-
the scope of inefficiency, which is more in small banks?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat?
Don't you think minimizing it is minimizing the scope of inefficiency, which is more in
Well,
weaker banks?
Well, definitely it is not minimizing the efficiency. It is just eating away the weaker banks. If you have more banks in the market, it will increase the competition of the banks in the market, and it will not lead to oligopolistic market, which is few banks just ruling the whole market. And that will they will just enjoy the profits alone, and there's no, as such as the competition in the market. So that does not affect or increase the efficiency of the weaker banks. It just eats away their presence.
No, but the results show that they improved, in fact. And what happened was when the banks merged, the banks in rural areas
Okay, thank you.
were
Thank you. Now you'll have to do the counter claim.
Okay, for my counter claim, I would like to say that it is said that our cabinet, my finance minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, has taken this such decision to take the Indian banks on a global scale. She wants to represent and resize the capital formation of such banks to a greater extent, increasing the capital of each bank, and increasing the capacity for lending, and thus giving entrepreneurs more more loans, and that's it. This will increase the this will also help in for the Make in India campaign, and yeah, that's it.
But
Thank
this
you.
also led to unemployment and disguised unemployment. What happened was there were so many workers in one bank, and it was very tough for them to manage all of them. And this led to all mess. And instead of providing better facilities and better services to the customers, they all they did was the opposite.
Okay, thank you. Please conclude your statements now with the original slides.
So I am Jacob Augustine from BCom Computers 1C. I conclude that mergers are important for the consolidation and exploitation purpose, and there are many private banks are getting attracted towards this. And in the past generations, it has been great results, in saving the weaker banks and fail in a meeting expectation. But it is have a crucial role in the economy for the country, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so in my conclusion for today's debate, I would like to say that the decision of bank mergers and reducing 27 public sector banks to only 12 sector banks would be great, but only if the internal matters of Indian financing system should be looked before taking anything globally. So with all these aspects brought in by us, I would like to end by saying that such a massive decision brought in through in India at the times of global pandemic, it will affect the Indian economy for the worse. Thank you. Thank you. We are done.
Okay. Please
Can I
start.
start?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team 7. Our topic is Walmart acquisition of Flipkart, a plus or minus for the Indian e-commerce ecosystem. We are for the topic. I would like to introduce the topic. The two biggest retailers in the world, Walmart and Amazon, are speculated to be in advanced talks with Flipkart and around a possible acquisition of majority stake in India leading online retailers. Flipkart owns India's largest fashion retailers, Myntra and Jabong, with both of it is acquired. India is huge, yet relatively untapped market that is growing rapidly. The country had 60 million online shoppers in 2016, which is only 14% of internet use-based countries. This rises to over 50% in 2026 in future.
वॉलमार्ट की होगी ठान क्योंकि वॉलमार्ट ने खरीद लिया है फ्लिपकार्ट. Walmart trusted the potential of Indian e-commerce sector. This deal will raise the confidence of Indian e-commerce market and thereby will attract more investors. Walmart will give the boost to the Flipkart to compete with Amazon and other e-commerce companies. More benefits to the customers as there will be low pricing and moreover many offers will be provided. Walmart will be buying from Indian manufacturers and local farmers. So they will have a global access who were restricted to a particular area. More warehouses, modern technology. So there will be less wastage of the raw materials. Proper delivery system, proper supply chain, more jobs, R&D, collateral benefits, broad-based growth, economic growth of India, economic development of India will be there. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that there will be problems every time and you need to learn to overcome it. So the Walmart has chosen the path of Flipkart in order to enter the e-commerce sector in order to overcome that problem. Clarity is power and they have proved it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. The team standing against?
Yes, sir. This is Ashmit Singh Bhatia. We are standing against Walmart's acquisition of Flipkart, a plus or a minus for the Indian e-commerce ecosystem. Flipkart was founded in 2007, but it had become a Singapore entity in 2011. It was registered under Singapore. So after Walmart acquired Flipkart, Walmart acquired a Singapore company, not an Indian company. So the 16 billion which was going to come to India if it were an Indian company. But now it will not come to India as it is a Singaporean company. It will be divided amongst Japan, China, South Africa, and America. India will get approximately 2 to 3 billion. That's it, nothing more. It will that too after revolving money around. And it will not be a direct. It is not a foreign direct investment in India. It is an FII investment. It's a different investment. It's not for foreign direct investment, as foreign direct investment is banned on online retail in India. I'll pass on to my teammates.
Yeah, I am Akshita here, the co-teammate of Ashmeet. So Walmart has a strong global physical space, its presence in the retail space, but lacks in e-commerce. What does India needs? E-commerce. It's famous for it. What is the topic here given? E-commerce ecosystem. What does affect e-commerce ecosystem? What does affect is that Walmart lacks in it in e-commerce. So that is a very basic thing to see to it, as Walmart is an offline retail space. So there is a negative point there that online things would not be in a highlight way. It is a non-online. It's not online space, and also brick and mortar may shut down. Those stores, brick and mortar stores that I'm
Thank
talking
you.
about, they shut down. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll pass on to Kunal.
Yeah, please
Hello
start the
everyone.
debate.
Yeah, my teammates continue. Hello Ashmit.
Yes.
Start with the debate.
Okay. So the after Walmart acquired Flipkart, it is agreed that Flipkart has a 200 million user base. But if Flipkart were an Indian company and it would have remained an Indian company, all the income, all the revenue, everything would have been Indian. It would not have gone to Walmart, an American company, or it would not have become a Singaporean entity. So India
Walmart
would
is
have
only
become
a
like Amazon
source.
by till date.
Walmart is only a source. It is acting like a middleman. Moreover, the local manufacturers and local farmers will be benefited as they will have a global access. And you were telling that Flipkart will be a loss, and it is not much. So the smart Indians are acting smart, and they are washing their hands by selling off the not profitable company in a huge profit. And moreover, the profits Walmart has acquired it, the shareholders will be benefited, not the Singaporean company or any other company. Those who have stakes in the Flipkart will be benefited. And moreover, they will have foreign investors more. Microsoft, Tencent, DCST Global, GIC, Belfield Gifford, Grenke Capital, Stateview Capital, Vulcan, SoftBank Group, Acer India. So most of them were foreigners. So we Indians will not have much impact, rather than we have sold the loss-making company in a huge profit.
Now, may I?
Flipkart was never a loss-making company. It was going to gain profit if it had a foreign direct investment. If India had foreign direct investment, it would have grown like Amazon. Amazon was not always a successful company. In beginning, it also faced problems. But today, Amazon Amazon owner is the richest person in the world. Flipkart would also have been just like Amazon, but it's not, because foreign direct investment was not. Because Walmart has acquired now. Now
That's what
Walmart has acquired.
It was not making profits, as your teammate said. So they have washed their hands by selling it in huge profits.
Don't you believe in self-made India?
Yes.
Don't you believe in self-made India? So let me speak first. So Walmart acquires it. Okay, but what about the small stores, moms and pop stores and brick and mortar stores? What about them? They will be feeling threatened. Are those stores not important for India?
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt. You guys have to counter claim now.
Okay.
Yeah, please start.
Counter claim for the topic. They are apprehensive of the fact that Indians as now does not have any national e-commerce policy or a regulatory body for the e-commerce in India. Anonymous information and data of Indian clients like personal details, purchasing history, search history, etc. can go under the control of US company. This can be abused by personal stakes, which happened in recent Facebook Cambridge Analytica case too. Therefore, there is a need to keep a system of checks and balances to avoid the instances of data branch of Indian customers.
From my side, yes, Walmart does do benefit by low prices, more variety. Consumers may feel that there is a lot of variety because of Walmart to them, and with low prices as we check about it, and R&D. Walmart is known for its culture of innovation, and also collateral benefit. Walmart's entry will use of fresh funds and rejuvenate e-commerce ecosystem as more foreign firms
Excuse me.
and venture capacities enter India.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, please conclude your statement. Yeah,
Alright.
please continue the conclusion.
Ashmit, over to you. Conclude, please.
To conclude, I would say Flipkart, Walmart should not have acquired Flipkart. Flipkart should have been an Indian company itself. It should have been in India because I believe and Amazon, the government was supported by the government, and today Amazon is one of the huge e-commerce market. Flipkart would have been just like that. It would have not been any less. Flipkart is the Kohinoor of Indian e-commerce, and it was sold to Walmart, which is not a good thing for Indian market.
Both Flipkart and Walmart will be benefited by this deal. More invested will help Indian economy and e-commerce sector. To conclude, the impact of Flipkart-Walmart deal on Indian economy can only be predicted, and predictions are believed to be largely positive. What interests me is the fact that the two worldwide leaders of e-commerce are officially in India and now are ready to go hammer and tongs to expand their customer base. It's time for the Indian economy to reap the benefits of this healthy and profiting battle. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, one and all. I'm Avantika Pandey. My teammates are Harsh Rai and Rishika Singh. So today, our topic is, will the new farmer bill hamper or revolutionize the Indian farmers? And we are favoring that it will hamper the Indian farmers. Recently, the government of India has come up with 3 ordinances related to agriculture, which has infuriated the farmers of the nation. Especially the farmers from Punjab and Haryana were out in the streets protesting against these ordinances. Why are they protesting? What changes are suggested by the ordinances? And why does this concern all of us or any common man? Okay, so the first bill introduced was the Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill 2020. This proposed legislation seeks to give freedom to the farmers to sell their produce outside the notified market yards, mandis. This aimed at facilitating the prices through competitive alternative trading channels. Farmers won't be charged any levy or cess for the sale of their produce under the Act.
Yeah, your teammate has to start now.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, but
Am I audible right now?
Yeah, you're audible.
So the second bill
Okay, I forgot to turn on my camera. I'm sorry about that.
sorry about that. The second bill established, that is Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Service Bill 2020. This is basically related to contract farming to empower farmers to engage with wholesalers, exporters, etc., so that they will get the price assurance before sowing the crop. The third bill is Essential Commodities Amendment Bill 2020. This bill removes pulses, oil, seeds, onions, and some other products from the essential commodities list, and thereby the restriction on the storage of these items will definitely be removed. So definitely the government has established all the 3 bills in summarization of one nation, one market. They want to end the monopoly of APMCs, which is related to Agriculture Product Mechanism Committee, which criminalizes setting up of other competing markets. Some states like made it mandatory for the farmers to trade it with APMC licensed traders. And this is also to facilitate contract farming. Thank you.
Yeah. The other team?
So good evening to one and all present over here. We group number 8 standing before you to present a topic that new farm bill will revolutionize or hamperize the Indian farmers. So basically, in the early 1950s or 1960s, farmers used to have very small land and very small production, so they could not decide the price. So they became the price takers. And in 1960s, the APMC was being introduced, in which the farmers was given the rights to sell their products to wherever, at any time and anywhere, to the people. So basically, the farmers could not decide the price, so they used to sell this to the middlemen, and and they received a price which may or may not be essential for them. Suhani, please continue.
Is the introduction over by my opponent?
Yes, but I doubt where are my team members.
Sorry?
One person is missing.
Okay. So, as we know that this farm bills will definitely revolutionize the Indian farmers. Definitely, when they come up with this laws, they have some they have some vision. The first vision, that is the first bill, that is One Nation, One Market, where they want to end the monopoly of APMCs. APMCs, what I believe that they criminalize the setting up of other competing markets. They want all the farmers, they want to collect the shares, and they want to invest, capitalize all the farming sessions and farming expenditures and all the profits towards their hand. So as you know, in some states, when this law will definitely be facilitated, so the farmers will have this opportunity not only to transport or not only to export, to do the trade of the produce only in one state, to do the state in every state around the nation, because one market will provide it for the entire nation. In some states, there are surplus of some vegetables and fruits, whereas in some other states, there's less supply and more demand for it. So this one bill, the first bill, it will definitely bridge this gap, and it will also benefit the consumers. Not only to that, it will also attract private investment in agriculture industry as well.
But
investment.
But the farmers do not have enough knowledge so that they could market in foreign also. It costs a lot of transport facilities and all. It would cause a loss to the farmers.
Do you think farmers have enough money to go to APMC mandis? Like, poor farmers don't even have the money to take up their whatever the crops they have grown and take it to the mandis and sell it.
Through transporting facilities, it would cost them more than visiting the APMC mandis and all.
Why would you think that? In the APMC mandis, the prices are regulated by the license holders. They manipulate the market.
The prices are according to them, not to the farmers. Prices are decided by them itself.
Do you think the poor farmers? Do you think the poor farmers will come out and protest? I bet that they don't even know that the bills have been passed yet. These protests were made by, the rich farmers of Haryana and Punjab, who are earning more and more by finding loopholes in tax systems. They don't even have to pay taxes for farming. So they are earning more through this.
And I also like to add a point that this bill will also introduce the contract farming, which is definitely helpful for the farmers, because they will get the price assurance in beforehand. Because now some companies, what they are doing is that they will extract all of this information and they will charge more burden to the input cost. So it will definitely reduce the burden of input cost, because now, as you know, that the new age farmers, what we are talking about, we are trying to bring a revolution.
What about the small farmers who have the small lands? How can they come up?
I didn't get you.
The sponsors would not even like to deal with the small farmers because the lands are small and they don't.
So it's not like they are not just taking out mandi. The mandis will be there itself. Our agricultural minister made it very clear that
due to the lack of education, farmers may be fooled.
No, that's not.
Yes.
Do you think big companies or
Big
wholesale
companies are the
traders or
legal entities. They
agri-based
have the
companies will go and deal with small farmers? They'll deal with the farmers who have a very good base and who produce a lot quantity of
the farmers
crops.
can be made fool easily because the companies have their own legal process. They have a lot of
Okay, guys, thank you. Okay. Yeah, please go for the counterclaim now. Please start the counterclaim.
Over to you, Ram.
Yeah, so in the in the counterclaim, the ordinance, I would like to say that the ordinance itself does not mention anything directly or indirectly to suggest an end of phasing out the minimum support price based on government procurement. And even though no provisions are being enumerated under the new ordinances regarding minimum support price, farmers may get a price for their crops below the minimum support price, which is loss for them. If they are mandis also, they may get the price up to the mark, but not more than that. But every time the luck doesn't work for the farmers, so it is also important that mandis should be there, and the government declares that minimum support price for the crops, but there have been no laws mandating for this. Why is this happening? No implementation is also being done. If implementation is being done, then it is done on the sugarcane or the such crops which are not basically used in our daily life. Why is it happening? And it should be done on the basic food items which have been useful for every
Okay,
people and the
thank you.
farmers also. Thank you.
Yeah, please conclude your statements now. Please start the conclusion.
Over to
Agriculture,
you.
Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh has said MSP, that is minimum support price mechanism, will continue, and also all the proposed laws will not enrich upon the agriculture produce marketing committee, because now we are moving towards the new age farmers. And what does mean that? That means the farmers will not farmers will be in direct touch with the new latest update technologies, such as they will also be facilitated with the contract farming, and if will be more important. And the way the bills are passed, it doesn't create a mis farmers on government side, and the positive side of the bill, such as the modern and Indian agriculture sector. Farmers are protecting because government has
I would like to conclude my topic by saying that this thing should the bills which are going to be passed shouldn't be passed, because if they are even passed, then the provisions should be taken, like farmers should be educated, and farmers should know how to deal with it, and a special helping desk should be made for farmers, by which they can have a proper knowledge, and the contracts which are made should have a proper sense, like which are even in favor of company and also the farmers. Thank you, sir.
All right, so moving on, the next team is Team 11 versus Team 20. Are you all present?
Yes, yeah, we were present.
Okay, so please start with your topic.
Good evening,
shall I?
respected judges. Can I start?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go on.
go ahead, next.
Good evening, respected judges, my opponents, and the audience. My companion Ritvika and I, Mehak, stand for the notion of the topic that is universal basic income the right way to eradicate poverty. Universal basic income is an alternative type of welfare scheme introduced by government that seeks to support the society, mainly the poor sections of the society, by offering conditional cash to everyone. Great economists, leaders, and writers have said that universal basic income is necessary to abolish inequality and develop the lifestyle of economy as a whole. In 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. said a guaranteed income would abolish poverty. That means reducing income inequality as well. Now, my companion Ritvika will brief you more about the topic.
So, good evening, everyone. I'm audible. So, this is Ritvika. I agree with the universal based income, which helps in eradicating poverty. It is a brilliant idea in which views of failures of the welfare state. If you work if you work it in the welfare state, how it is a system for humiliating. If you say the welfare state, it is a poor, which is a system for humiliating the poor, for putting them through the various hopes to prove that they deserve poor. So, universal base income covers the comes from the return to the capital, not from the transaction. So I'm done with it. You can go now.
Okay.
Hello,
So
this
good
is
evening,
Saad.
everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, continue.
Are you going to say it? No problem. You can go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Myself, Kirti, and I'm from BCom IFA 1. So the topic is UBI, that is Universal Basic Income. So we are against this topic, and the very name of the topic itself tells us that it is basically an income, a basic income that is given to all the people, and the government has started this scheme. It's not exactly a scheme, but it is a kind of scheme where the government is trying to set a trend by giving the by giving the people a basic income that they need for their daily necessity. And it has got its recognition in 1977 in a European political party with the representation of parliament. Sir, you continue now.
Hello, this is Saad from BCom IFA, and I'm against the topic of the universal basic income is the right way to eradicate poverty. Okay, so the universal basic income is nothing but a model for providing a sum of money to all citizens of a country or geographic area with a given sum of money, regardless of their income, employment status. The purpose of the UBI is to prevent or reduce poverty and increase equality. That's what the universal basic income defines. So what I'm trying to say is the cost of UBI in USA is estimated to be 3.9 trillion per year. This is definitely an enormous number for a government to budget for. Do you think that this is where the government should invest rather than investing the money somewhere more useful? And don't you think it disincentivizes work people? It definitely doesn't target money to the most needy, will it? Will it? No, I don't think it might be. Isn't it bad for the economy? It almost costs, UBI almost costs about 4.4% of the GDP.
Thank you. Yeah, please start the debate. Yeah.
So I'm going to start. How could UBI work? Yes, it could. We can say that the people cannot earn the money which is coming from the government, but at the time we should stay unless the country isn't rich enough to allow people not work at all. Someday we will. Until then, things like earned income tax credit will be help increase the demand of labor. And I have
but this doesn't support the system. It more increases the inflation in this economy.
I have a question for you. How can you say that UBI is not right to eradicate poverty? Because poverty isn't a lack of cash.
Okay, you asked me, right? So it can't, because see, when the government is giving the money to the people, like everyone. You can't go on distributing money to everyone unless it is poor people. So even if poor people are getting the money, the middle class people, rich people also are receiving. When they receive, they are going to invest it in more. So then the poor people, of course, it's going to become the same. And the inflation takes roots completely into the economy, I would say.
I'll give you an example. Now we had a lockdown. After lockdown, Prime Minister and also Telangana state, the people who are having the ration card, they gave money for them, like 1,500 and 1,000. So if we are having a ration card type, then every poor people who are under the poverty line, they will get the money, right? Then the money will not be wasted. The correct poverty is using.
But the actual thing is that they can use the same money for different other schemes by not just giving the cash without any reason for everyone and just distributing it among the people.
But if I show you the evidence, Brazil had an Bolsa Familia program, which is equal to UBI only, but they name it as Bolsa Familia program, where it has clearly given evidence that it showed that basic income and can sustainably reduce poverty. How can I say means they have established this in 2003 and they continued in 2007. 1 second. So yeah, from starting, wait, sorry for that.
But what you're saying is that it is for the poor people, but the government is not just concentrating on the poor people in UBI. There is so much of money invested in this thing. Instead of just investing it in UBI and giving the cash like that, they can use it for hospital, education, and all that stuff, which would actually help the society to grow.
If I see, I'm saying that.
Okay, thank you.
Actually,
Please start the counterclaim.
I just want to say one thing that our opponent said that it is probably profitable for the people. The history has proven that freebies never change the economic conditions of the people. So giving sum of money, 7,000 per person per year will not change much, as we have seen in the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act scheme, which gives 10,000 per year to the people. It doesn't change anything. The government should rather focus on to increase the skill of people at free cost than giving the.
Can we start the counter target? Yeah. So yeah, that is not right for eradicating poverty because inflation is there. That is the main point. I agree with that. And another thing is free income. The people may get lazy. You don't know if we are supporting the money. We are sending those money to them. We don't know they're spending it for right. Maybe they can spend it on drugs or drinking alcohol, and or else they can become lazy and they can bulge out and they can't work at all. So I'm done with the count. You can go ahead.
Yeah, please start the conclusion.
So I would like to conclude by saying that I'm totally against this thing, UBI, because freebies have never changed the economy or the economic conditions of the people. And also just a sum of 7,260 rupees or something can't help an economy to build its roots. Okay. And I would say that it is not an effective way to tackle the poverty. It will instead push the people into temptations to get free money, and also it will have an adverse effect on the society and the children of this time. And therefore, government should actually focus on giving them a free skill, like any skills at free cost, instead of giving them free cash. Thank you.
So Mehak, can you conclude?
We would like to conclude by addressing our current situation, that is the pandemic. While many people are losing jobs and a lot of unemployment is there, so it is schemes like this can help people to have a stable lifestyle.
So I thank everyone for giving us this topic. So I'm ending the topic. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so moving on. The next team is Team 14 versus Team 18. Are you all present?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, we are present, ma'am.
Great. Anmol, please put up the topic, 9th topic. Please go ahead.
This is Shruti Jaiswal, and I'm from BCom Computers. I stand with boycotting Chinese products. China is blocking India's bid to list Masood Azhar as a terrorist. Not just like this, China is blocking India from becoming a member of nuclear supplier group using its veto power. On one hand, China wants to maintain good trade relationships with India, whereas on the other hand, China has been acting up against India in many cases. So maintaining good trade relationship with China may not be good for us. India has a huge trade deficit with China. For years 2017 to 2018, Indian imports from China are worth $76.2 billion, whereas Indian exports from China are worth $33 billion. So there is a need to reduce our trade deficit. Over to my teammate Deepti. Deepti, you're not audible. Your
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Deepti, and China has a really powerful weapon, and as Indians, we are going to suffer the most. And that is not COVID-19 or nukes. And that is something even more dangerous, that is economy. They are using economy against us. They are aligning with our they are aligning with some countries, and they are boosting up their militaries. So I'd like to say that boycotting Chinese product is the best thing to do.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. We are against the boycott of Chinese products and service a sustainable idea. Chinese products have been successful in flooding the Indian market because their price is comparatively cheaper than the Indian products, and most importantly, no Indian is forced to use the Chinese products. But still, there is considerable demand because Chinese products offer more value for money. And the task of mass boycotting of Chinese products is feasible only when you find a substitute source which match with the cost and bulk availability of Chinese products. And according to India Today report, India's largest imports from China include electronics to 20 billion, and nuclear reactors and machinery 10.5 billion, and chemicals 6 billion, and steel 2.3 billion. And besides, 60% of smartphone industries are China-based brands like Vivo, Realme, and Oppo. I pass over to Ranshita to continue. Ranshita, are you there?
Please ask her to unmute.
Ranshita, unmute yourself. Sarika, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, continue, please.
And please turn on your cameras.
I'm sorry, I can't turn on because of the poor network connection.
Continue, Sarika.
Yes. So our topic is boycotting of Chinese products. So we are against the topic. So as we know, Chinese products are
Not audible.
bad. So
So the debate starts
Not
now.
audible.
The debate starts now. Can I speak?
Yes.
Chinese industries doesn't spend much money on the innovation, research, and development. Rather, they just manufacture imitation goods a lot of time, and they use cheap products and make a good product out of it, which is not worthy, I feel. It's not worthy buying.
Yeah, Chinese investors as dominant players in the Indian startup space.
But we have alternatives here. See, the moment we banned all the 56 products, we got apps. We got many alternatives. In spite of using TikTok, we have some JoJo app or something. We have so many alternatives. Other than these Chinese mobiles, we have Realme. Realme is now an Indian company, not a Its company. Its CEO is Realme is now an Indian company.
Yes.
And according to 2018 to 19, Indian exports to China were mere 16.7 billion, while imports were 70.3 billion, leaving a trade deficit of 53.6 billion. China had a 5.0% share in the India exports for the year 2018 to 19 and 13.8 share in the Indian imports for the year 2018 to 19. China exports to India account for nearly 2 to 4% of its total exports.
See, I'm asking you a question right now. So, is it okay for us to use harmful products?
Right now we are already
exactly. Is
using
it all right if we use harm because it is affecting us in so many ways?
Do you not believe in Atmanirbhar Bharat?
But
No, but
boycotting
it is
Chinese
affecting
goods
us.
is not a good idea always.
In Atmanirbhar Bharat, but it's also the way we manage our money and financial.
Yeah, but we have so many mobile companies like Nokia, Samsung, Realme. Realme is now an Indian company. We have so many alternatives. Why do you want to use?
Products in
Why do you want to use only Chinese products? Nokia is a cheap. Nokia has cheap
Okay.
alternatives.
Do you use plastic?
cheap alternative,
Everyone
but Chinese
uses.
don't have much technology.
Sorry?
So let me tell you one
We
thing.
have cheap products.
It's
but
already
the Chinese goods have
5:37.
more technology.
Okay, so let me tell you one thing. Do you think it is affecting our Indian economy? Because it is affecting our Indian economy. If we keep on using Chinese products,
Okay.
we are benefiting.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Please start the counterclaim.
Okay. As the member of WTO, World Trade Organization, it does not allow us to ban Chinese companies. But you want to speak?
No. Go for it. Go for it.
So it does not allow us to ban the whole Chinese companies. We'll consume all the Chinese products indirectly, not directly, but we do consume them indirectly.
Somehow we are consuming Chinese products because we are a part of World Trade Organization and we can't just cut ties with products.
And yes, the India has banned 59 Chinese apps like PUBG, and it is really very good to help us to promote the sovereignty and security of our country. These apps are very dangerous because China put any bugs of software. When we play games in our phones, we send millions of messages to those sites, and China can track these messages and cause harm for an individual.
Yeah, please continue and conclude your statement.
Okay, so China is using its money power and making alliances with our neighboring countries, and it is very harmful for us. It is basically China has created a situation for us where we cannot afford a war. And Xi Jinping, the president of China, has publicly told his military to prepare for a war. And depending on China's products, is like Chinese debt trap is like getting addicted to sugar, and your body needs it to give you instant boost. But you also know that but the moment you realize that it's harmful, you are already trapped. Your loans, interest, and scams, and the financial health of the country is destroyed.
Yeah, we conclude thus China products have dominance in Indian digital market, private Indian companies, India key trading partner, etc. And TikTok app has 200 billion subscribers and has overtaken the YouTube in India.
But
And China
TikTok is a
the
harmful
world's
platform.
factory.
But TikTok is a harmful platform.
Excuse me, sorry, I'm
sorry to the
concluding.
conclusion.
Thus, some of the key industries of the Indian economy are either partially or wholly dependent on China. Products made by Indian companies contain components that come from China or use Chinese machinery to make them. Thank you.
Shruti, you want to conclude?
I would just like to mention a single point. If we boycott Chinese products, there will be so many job opportunities for Indian people that it will Thus, it will reduce the employment. We don't have perfect employment right now, and it will give so many employment opportunity for the poor people and also the middle class. Thank you so much.
We are done for the day.
We are done for the day, Deep. So yeah, guys, thank you for your participation. And yes, you guys were amazing. And as per the situation, as you guys know that we have a rollover tomorrow, so you have to wait for the results tomorrow. Please join the meeting tomorrow as well for the results.